Good morning, PT on Ice. Welcome to Leadership Thursday. I am Zach Morgan. I am here with ICE as one of the lead faculty with cervical and lumbar spine management. Just wanted to bring you guys the topic this morning of the fitness forward interview. And this is really kind of built out for whether you're a PT or a student or a new grad that's looking for a fitness forward job, the questions you should be asked in the interview, or if you're a leader at a fitness forward clinic and you're looking for better questions to ask, this podcast is for you. So we'll cover those questions. But before we do, let me point you towards a couple of courses that we have on the books. So April 1st and 2nd, here in a few weeks, Madison, Wisconsin, that will be Lumbar Spine Live. And then a couple lumbar offerings in June. So June 3rd and 4th, we've got Charlotte, North Carolina, as well as Casper, Wyoming. Couple cervical options as well. Let me just pull my calendar up real quick. We've got cervical here in a couple of weeks in Baton Rouge with our friends over in Baton Rouge. So that will be a good one. That's April 15th and 16th. And then the week after Sampler in right outside of Bethesda, Maryland. So in the DC area, cervical spine as well. So several good course offerings coming up. If you're trying to catch us this year, Jordan and I are all over the place. So you should be able to just go on ptonice.com, click live courses, and be able to find whatever you're looking for as far as any of the spine content. All right, let's dive into the content this morning. And again, the topic is the fitness forward interview. So whether you're a leader or someone that's looking for a fitness forward job offering, these are the questions that should be kind of chewing in your mind. And this kind of comes from a conversation that Jeff, our CEO, and I had years and years ago, just kind of chewing on different things. And I think most of us on faculty have probably had similar conversations with Jeff at some point in time, but just kind of condensing down to as few questions as we feel like we could get away with in an interview, and like what are the most important things to target. So for the first question, thinking of the fitness forward job interview, it's related to health and fitness, of course. And the first question is, over the past 6 months, how have you prioritized your health and fitness? I think this is a really good question, and it's one that we want to hear the answer to as a leader, or if you're applying, you want to be asked this question. The reason being is it really doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, how busy things are, how chaotic things are. You have to be able to prioritize your health and fitness. The clients coming to see you are going to also have busy and chaotic lives. So whether you just finished with school where there was a ton of studying, a ton of things that are make it very easy to not participate in fitness, we want to know, how is it that you've prioritized this? Like, what are the ways that you've still got it done even in a busy time of your life? Everyone's busy. If you've been a part of a functional fitness gym like CrossFit or Burn or something like that, you know that there are a lot of high performers in those places, and all of those folks are very busy. And so for you to be able to troubleshoot that person's injury or that person's pain problem or their lifestyle issue, it's really helpful to have had that on board yourself. So make sure that that question is getting asked, and I'd love to hear the answers. The answer we're not looking for is, well, we've been really busy, so it's been difficult to prioritize that. It doesn't take much time to get fitter. It doesn't take much equipment. It just takes some intensity and some effort, and carving that out every day. And it doesn't always have to be something really specific. I mean, it could even be very creative. And in a lot of ways, I think that's better. So that question and the answer to that question just means so much to us. How have you prioritized your health and fitness? It goes way beyond just carving out the time for the workout too. It can be very health related. Like, think about diets that you could have practiced a bit, whether it's intermittent fasting, macros, hydration strategies. What literature have you consumed? What podcasts do you find yourself listening to? How are you adding tools to your tool belt that will then serve the fitness community, or honestly, the community that's not very fitness forward? Because we need to be able to meet people wherever they're at. And a lot of folks are not at a place of fitness. And so how you prioritize these things is really important. So that's just some food for thought on that first question. The second question is less directly related to fitness, and that's more surrounding your ideal career. So, given your skills and interests, what does your ideal career look like? I love this question. I love it for a lot of reasons, But probably the most important one in my mind is it can save both parties a ton of time if the person's ideal career is not what is going to be able to be provided at the clinic. So, like for us, we're not looking for a person to micromanage. That's never been something that we've done at our Onward, and I don't think any of the other Onwards as well. But there are clinics where it is very regimented, and they're looking for a very specific person that can kind of execute tasks that are all very much assigned to them. And people's brains work differently. So it's helpful right up front to know, what does your ideal career look like? Like what are the interests and skills that you really love and that you would want to carve out clinically? Because if we can provide that as a leader or as a clinic, we would want that person on board, because if you give people things that they're interested in, things that they're skilled with, things that they actually enjoy doing, they're very likely to stay with you from a career standpoint. And then from that standpoint, they're likely to enjoy what they're doing. And that is so much more important as a clinic leader than how much money they generate or how many patients they see and those types of things. We should be seeking environments for people to work in where they can thrive. And when people take a job where they can thrive because it matches what they're after, man, they're so much more productive, and then their life and their health is so much better. So ideal career is a really important question. Like, what does that look like for you? And so finding a way to ask that question, I think, is a really important one. This next one's big too. So thinking back towards whether it's movies or books, I mean, my preference is certainly books, but what are the books that you have read that have most influenced your life or your outlook on life? I love this question. This could be, things that are philosophical. It could be things that are more health oriented. I certainly have a blend of both of those things in my past of books that I've read that really influenced the way I see healthy diet, for instance, or the way I see leadership and how it should be executed on. But what are those books that you have read or that have influenced you a lot? I think this can really help, again, sort of make sure that everyone's lined up really well versus being on really opposite sides of the spectrum. And what we want to avoid is getting 6 months deep, 12 months deep into a relationship where it turns out we just weren't a good fit for one another at the beginning. And it's so much easier to just kind of call it before we get 6 to 12 months deep in a relationship. It's way better if everyone's honest up front. All right, the next question, and this one's hard, and I think you would have to give the person quite a bit of space to answer this, but it's regarding challenging situations. So we've all been through challenging situations in our career, some more so than others. But I think for this one, think about a challenging situation you've encountered, and how would you have approached that differently now, knowing all that you know now? It's really rare that everyone approaches every challenging situation perfectly. In the vast majority of the cases, in retrospect, you're going to have things that you wish you had done differently. And so reflecting on that can be really helpful for both you as the leader or you as the applicant to be honest here and say, I wish I had said it like this. I realize now that I needed to own my share of that. And at the time, I felt all their fault. Those types of reflections can help build a base of honesty. And that base of honesty is one that a real relationship can form from. And when I mean real relationship, I mean, like, from this, hierarchy standpoint, we still want to really enjoy being around each other. And so I think our ability to communicate effectively with one another is by far the most important factor. And so how you handle these challenging situations through life, and the way in which you've reflected on them, hopefully, is very telling as far as an interview question. Like for me, if the person said, well, actually, I've always felt like I've handled these things super well, that's actually a bit of a red flag in my mind. Like, I know for sure I've not handled every challenging situation I've encountered perfectly, and no one I know has either. And the only way to get better is to reflect on how that challenging situation was handled and how it could be improved upon. You can't change what happened in the past. It already happened. That is set in stone. But how could we do better next time is the type of thought that I think that we all need to have in our mind when it comes to managing challenging situations. So that's kind of our fourth big question. This next one's a doozy, and this one means a ton to me, and it's regarding the medical system. What are your thoughts on the medical system as a whole? And then give them time. Be silent. I really want to know, how do you feel about the medical system? Hard to answer, right? And a lot of people see us as within the medical system, but I have always really identified with the way Tim Flynn put it. I think it was 2016 AOMPT. He did the keynote at that conference. So he took the stage and kind of did that full keynote. And the title of his lecture was Why I Left the System. And man, it really hit me hard. But ever since then, I've very strongly felt that we're not a strong part of the medical system. And I've had some personal encounters. My last podcast was somewhat on this. So if you want to go back and listen, I've had some personal encounters lately, and it makes me feel even stronger that we're not a part of that. We're part of the health system, and the medical system is not built to make people healthier. It's built to help people who are sick. And there are some effective things in the medical system that are helpful for people that are really injured or really sick. But if we're actually talking about improving someone's health, that has to happen outside of the medical system. It's too influenced by outside factors and funding and all sorts of things that we could do 12 podcasts on. But how do you feel about that? I would love to know that from someone that was applying at Onward, Tennessee. Man, this next two are probably the most important, and these are not fitness forward specific, but they're just so specific to the interview and how we can make sure we're connecting with the right type of folks in this interview. In this next one, I know all of you who have been mentored by Jeff have been asked this, but it's the rocking chair question, right? Looking back at your career, once it's all said and done, what are you going to be proud of that happened because you were a part of this profession? And the rocking chair piece is like when you're sitting on that rocking chair at the end of your career and you're in retirement and you're having a deep conversation with somebody that means a lot to you. What are those points that really hit you that make you know that you had done something fulfilling? Man, the answer to this question is huge. Like, we should be looking for work that is fulfilling. I know for me, it is so fulfilling to help clients who are struggling, whether that's with pain or anxiety or stress related to that pain, but basically that patients that are their life is affected by the condition that is currently going on. And the things that we do as therapists influence a lot of this. And so some of it is just pain relief. So doing techniques that help relieve the person's pain, but also just hearing them out and hearing what influences in their life are adding or subtracting to their ability to heal from these issues, and maybe slightly challenging and nudging them towards improving. Like, I know for me, when I'm sitting on that rocking chair, I want to know that it was a lot more than manual therapy. It was a lot more than just giving someone a specific isometric or dry needling them. I love doing all of those things, but it's more about like, how did their life change because of the visits that they saw me? Like, take deep sleep, for instance. Like, I love spinal manipulation, but it only helps people with back pain feel better from that back pain, or neck pain, feel better from that neck pain, or headaches, feel better from those headaches. But if we actually convince someone to sleep a bit deeper throughout their plan of care with us, think about the influence to their future life. Like, Alzheimer's risk drops, dementia risk drops, cancer risk drops. A lot of these things drop, and it's directly based off of what we're willing to talk about in our four walls every day. So I think for me, that's the big rocking chair example. And I'm not always looking for exactly that from someone I'm interviewing, but I do think those are important things for the person to think about and have good answers to. All right, the very last one, and I think probably could be argued to be maybe the most important of the bunch, is how do you like to be led? I think we often assume people want to be led with a certain manner because there are a lot of leaders that share common characteristics, but everyone's different. Everyone's different. I know, speaking from our team, all four of us have different styles. Like, we all have different ways in which we like to be led. And it's important as a leader to know how the people that are following you want to be led. Like, some people like really direct and consistent feedback. Please don't fluff it up. Just tell me exactly how you feel. Like, get to the point, because that will save us both time. Other folks need to hear a little bit about some of the good things that they're doing as well. Like, personally, I don't like compliments. Like, it's not something I want from leadership. Like compliments are something I've never been comfortable with, but a lot of people need that. And a lot of people want that. And that's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as a leader, think about how important it is to know that ahead of time. And when someone tells you how they like to be led, you better write it down and you better make sure that you lead them in that fashion, because if you want to create retention, if you want to make sure that they feel warm and welcome to stay on your team indefinitely, you have to know how they want to be led. It's important to match that. So this might be the most important question of the 7, but let's just briefly summarize all of them. First, tell me about your health and fitness journey over the last 6 months. How have you prioritized it? Second, what does an ideal career look like to you? Third, what are the most influential books that you've read and how have they changed your outlook? How have you managed a challenging situation and how do you wish you would have done that? What are some ways that could have improved? What do you think about the medical system, right? And when you're sitting in that rocking chair at the end of your career, what do you want to be different because you were there? How do you want to leave your mark? And then lastly, how do you want to be led? Team, that's really all I've got there for you. I think if there was one underlying theme across this interview and across the goals that should come from the interview, and this comes from either the leadership side or if you're actually being the one who is interviewed, if you're the one who's being interviewed, honesty underlines all of this. The more honest we can be with one another right off the bat, here's how I feel. These are the things that I care about. This is how this has influenced me. If that is a 100% honest and upfront, the ability to grow J curves. It just J curves. When you can be honest with one another, your ability to make progress is so much more rapid than when one person feels like they've got to hide their cards a bit, or when one person feels like I can't be honest about that because I'm afraid of what they might think. Team, if that's the case, this is not probably a good career for you or not a good spot for you. So these are the things that we really think hit the fitness forward interview super well. Some of them are very fitness related. All of them are when you really think about it from the health standpoint, because mental health moving into the workplace and having an environment that is very supportive of your mental health is going to make you thrive way, way better. So look for these questions if you're looking for a fitness forward job, or if you're a leader that's looking to bring people on to your fitness forward clinic. Think about asking some of these things. Team, that's all I've got for you. I'll be monitoring the thread. If you have questions about any of these things, drop them in. I'm happy to respond. Look for us on the road. We're all over the place, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 8.